I bought the iPad mini 3 months ago and I really couldn't recommend it, but I realized I was wrong, or sort of wrong, for not giving it more of a chance. Now, my criticisms about this device still stand. Nothing has changed with those, the issues still remain, but I still couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. So I'm gonna go over what this device does well, what I like about it, and the issues I have with it after 3 months of using it. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep into my dislikes. I covered all of those in the original video that you can find down in the description. I also put links to the iPad and the rest of the current lineup. Now, which iPad are you using? Let us know in the comment section. Now, before we start, I went on a vacation with my family a couple weeks ago for 7 days. I took with me the iPad mini, the 11-inch iPad Pro, and the 16-inch MacBook Pro that just came out. I used pretty much the mini for the whole trip. I didn't pull out my laptop except for once to look for a file. This covered me on the plane, at the hotel, took care of everything I needed. Now, the first thing I like about the iPad mini is the size. That's what drew me to my original iPad mini years ago. I've been using the 11-inch iPad Pro for a while. It's not a huge device, but once you put it in the Magic Keyboard case, this thing starts to get heavy. If you put it into one of Apple's folio cases, one of the thinnest options, it's still kind of a bulky device compared to this ultra portable iPad mini. Now I have to do the mandatory put it into a pocket so you know that it's small. See? It's portable. Next, I love the design of this. I like that it's the same design as the iPad Pro with no home button on it. I do wish it had Face ID like my iPad Pro and my iPhone. This instead uses Touch ID. You just rest your finger on it. It's quick. It did take a little bit of getting used to. But overall, like the look of it. Bezels look really big on this because the screen is so small. Some of the other changes, they have side speakers on them now, so you get stereo sound when in horizontal. You have upgraded cameras. I like that it has no home button, that it supports the second generation Apple Pencil put right on top, the fact that it has USB-C like my iPad Pro and my MacBook Pro. If only my phone seemed to have it, which it never will because it's Apple, but the design's awesome. The next thing I like is having just the tablet again. The iPads have changed a lot since I bought my iPad Pro in 2018. There's a lot of desktop features that just didn't exist before on the iPads. Now, the mini has the power to do all those same things as my iPad Pro. It's just that some things are really small on here, like my photo software, that if I go in here, icons are super small. So this is a device that having the pencil might come in handy, even if you don't use it for writing, but just for navigation in case you do have to use those apps that with the scaling just don't look that great. But I can move past some of the scaling stuff because I don't need to use all of those apps. Instead, I can just enjoy this as a tablet for what it does well. I've been using the same iPad Pro for the past 3.5 years, so I didn't mind getting this as a nice addition. I don't need it to do all the stuff as my Pro. Instead, I can just enjoy this as a tablet and take advantage of these next things that I really like. One of the big uses for me is taking notes with the iPad mini. If you didn't know, you could just take the pencil and touch the screen, and that's gonna open up a blank note that you can just start writing on. You also have the option, if you do have the screen open up, to swipe up from the bottom, and then you could add links in there, you could add text, send that note off to the side to grab later on, or you can just close it out altogether. If you need it back, you just swipe up from the bottom. I love that it supports the second generation Apple Pencil and it just attaches to the side. This is a great size for taking notes on the go or anywhere. I tend to write in the morning, just thoughts and stuff, and super convenient, and then I'll take notes for my videos on it. I'm finding I'm using a lot less paper these days because of the iPad mini. I do enjoy the iPad mini for video. It really makes a nice media device. It doesn't have a 120 hertz screen, so it's not as smooth as my iPad Pro. It's not mini LED, which is okay. I do have to say it's probably one of the worst Apple displays in years. That's because of what they call jelly scroll. And what happens is as you scroll quickly through websites, you will actually see a little wave happens. It doesn't apply when you're watching videos and a lot of other things. But if I do kind of scroll through quickly to look at some news articles and I see it, it's a little annoying. It's not something you know in a horizontal position, but just something to be aware of. Even with the jelly scroll, this is still a great Apple display. Apple makes better displays than a lot of other manufacturers. So it looks good, colors look great on it. Just that scroll. Watching video. This thing is a great size for sitting on the couch watching video, lying in bed, and dare I say, for some, good size for the toilet. You know who you are. You're using your mini on the toilet. I mentioned earlier there's the speakers on the side. This helps for stereo sound. This also supports spatial audio. If you're not familiar with that, I made a whole video. I'll put it down in the description. But spatial audio is basically a surround sound with your supported AirPods. If you have AirPods, definitely check out that video in the description. Next is web browsing. I find this is a great device for browsing the web in a horizontal mode. In vertical, things start to get a little too tiny. And even Apple recognizes that now. By default, the browser loads mobile websites, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. In the mornings, when I'm getting ready for my live streams or doing research for a video, a lot of times I'll just hold this while I'm on the treadmill walking and a horizontal layout because the size is on par with my iPad Pro when it's in a vertical format. They are about the same width. I turned off the loading mobile websites because mobile websites sometimes have limitations where you can't interact with them the same way as you can as a desktop browser. So although small, I'll just keep using it horizontal. At night I read on my Kindle, but throughout the day if I want to read a book or use the news app, that's where this gets a lot of use, checking out the Apple News app. This is my reading device most of the time. Again, with some of the stuff, you might run into the text looking a little small. Depending on your app, you might be able to adjust the size of that. Another addition that helps is the new 12 megapixel cameras. This device is great for video calling. I don't use the 12 megapixel camera on the back to take pictures. That's what my phone is for. So unless that disappears or I'm feeling extremely lazy, this camera is not really going to get use. But the front FaceTime camera is great. It has the feature center stage, and what center stage will do is keep you framed up within the center of the screen. So what it does is uses an ultra wide camera and then just crops it down to you, and if someone else enters the frame, it'll widen out and then it just moves as you move within the frame. So great for Zoom calls. You'll have some of the best looking Zoom calls out there, or any other video calls. Now let's talk about some of the issues. I'm not going to go too deep into them. If you want to see what problems I have with this device, check out my original iPad mini video in the description. It'll help paint a fuller picture of the iPad mini. Now the first thing, I think the scaling on this is bad. I don't understand why stuff wasn't like increased in size like 10 to 15% to utilize the space. I don't get it. It's like Apple dumped the 11-inch format on this and just said, forget it. Now, Apple did make this a little narrower, so you're going to see some apps that have a little extra space on the side. Really kind of annoying, especially early on with the YouTube app. You go full screen and then you have almost a 1/4 inch of unused space. Apple transferred the responsibility to developers to format their stuff to utilize that space. I don't know why we didn't just make it evenly so it's the same format as the rest of the iPads. Now another thing is, in a lot of cases the text is smaller on here than it is on my phone. I've increased the text size as large as it can get and still it's smaller than my phone. The icons are smaller. I don't get it. With the smaller text, it makes it hard to use certain things. I mean, if we look at widgets, the text is so small, it's not as usable as a mobile version. If we look at the keyboard shrunk down, I don't get why it's smaller than my iPhone. That makes no sense to me. Really, they need to take the keyboard, widgets, and some other features of a phone and put it into the iPad to take advantage of the smaller size. Again, I don't think this is great for desktop web browsing in its size. It gets a little tiny. Horizontal makes that better. We talked about that jelly scroll. That's weird to me and just something that I'm surprised to see on an iPad. But really, other than how tiny things are on the screen, and I get it's called a mini, but that doesn't change bad scaling. And for those of you who are gonna say Apple's gonna fix that, I wouldn't count on that. You gotta buy the device as it is now. There's a lot of stuff Apple hasn't fixed and they've made excuses for, or they just neglected. Think about that. Now, if you want a really compact tablet and you're willing to accept the compromises of the iPad mini, this is a great device for reading, watching videos, FaceTime, taking notes, and the occasional email or other professional task you might want to do. I don't use this for gaming, although many people say this is a great gaming device. I don't use it for work tasks that much. If you're thinking about getting one of these, I really recommend seeing it in person, navigate around and see if it's going to be a good option for you. I think for a lot of people, you might be better off going with the iPad Air. Now, are you thinking about buying an iPad mini? Let us know in the comment section. Next, make sure to check out this video over here so you can learn more about the things I don't like about the iPad mini. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. Bye.